At the bank, my son waved the key and said, "Everything inside is mine now." My heart sank as the manager looked at me in silence. Then without a word, he handed the box to me, because only my name was on it. If you're already pulled into this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. My name is Linda Warren, and I am 61 years old. I never thought I would stand in a bank one day and watch my only child try to take everything I had left. For years, I built my life around my son, Mark. After losing my husband, raising him became my purpose. I worked double shifts, skipped vacations, and gave up on dreams of my own just to make sure he would have a future. Mark was once a kind and thoughtful boy. When he was little, he used to leave me notes that said, "Don't worry, Mom, I'll take care of you one day." I saved those notes in a box because they gave me hope that all the sacrifices were worth it. But as he grew older, something in him changed. He became distant, more focused on money, status, and the things he thought would make him important. I still tried to believe he would find his way back. I excused his sharp words. I overlooked his selfish choices, and I told myself he was just under pressure. Deep down, though, I knew I was losing the son I once had. The one thing I always protected was the safety deposit box my husband left me. Inside were not just valuable papers, but personal things too. His watch, old letters, our family's most treasured memories. It was more than money. It was a piece of our lives. I told Mark many times, "This box is your father's legacy. It's meant to be cared for, not fought over." He would just smile and say, "I understand, Mom. Don't worry." But the way his eyes lingered on that box told me otherwise. So when I walked into the bank that day and saw him standing there with the key, claiming it all belonged to him, I realized the truth I had been trying to avoid. The boy who once promised to protect me had become the man trying to take everything from me. When I walked into the bank that morning, I didn't expect to see my son standing there with a key in his hand. Mark looked so sure of himself, almost proud, as if he had already won something. He waved the key at the manager and said with confidence, "Everything inside is mine now." My heart dropped. For a moment I couldn't even breathe. This was my son, the same boy I had raised with love and sacrifice, now standing in front of strangers, trying to take what was not his. The bank manager, Mr. Harlan, shifted uncomfortably in his chair. He glanced at me, then back at Mark. The silence in the room felt heavy, like everyone was waiting for someone else to speak first. Finally, I found my voice. "Mark, what are you doing?" "That box is mine. Your father left it in my name." Mark's expression hardened. "Mom, you're old now. You don't need what's in there. It's mine by right. Dad would have wanted me to have it." His words cut me deeply. Old. As if my years of sacrifice, of building a life after my husband's death, no longer mattered. I stared at him, searching for the boy I once knew, the one who promised to take care of me. But all I saw was a man consumed by greed. The manager cleared his throat. "Mr. Warren, we can't just hand over the contents without proper authorization. Do you have documentation showing your name on the account?" Mark's smug smile wavered slightly, but he quickly recovered. He held up the key again, shaking it in the air. "I have this, don't I? My father told me years ago that this box would be mine." She's only holding it until now. I stepped closer, my voice steady, though my hands trembled. "That's not true, Mark. Your father left that box to me. He trusted me to keep it safe. The bank records will show that. It doesn't matter what story you try to tell." Mark turned toward me, his tone sharper now. "Why are you making this harder, Mom? You know I'm your only child. Everything you own will come to me eventually, so why fight me on this now? You should just let me take it." The audacity of his words nearly broke me. He wasn't asking, he was demanding, as if my life, my memories, and my security were just stepping stones for his ambition. I could see the bank staff nearby glancing at us, pretending to work but listening closely. Shame burned inside me, but beneath it, anger began to rise. "Mark," I said firmly, "this isn't about you being my only child. This is about respect. That box is in my name, not yours. You can't just walk in here and claim it." His face flushed red, and he leaned closer, lowering his voice so only I could hear. "You always think you know better, but you're weak now, Mom. You can't stop me. I've got the key. That's all I need." For a moment, I almost wavered. Part of me wanted to believe he was bluffing, that this was just a childish act of defiance. But the seriousness in his eyes told me otherwise. He had thought this through, and he truly believed he could take everything from me without consequence. I turned to the manager, my voice shaking but determined. "Mr. Harlan, please check the records. You'll see that the box is under my name only." Mark interrupted, his voice rising. "Don't listen to her. She's confused. She doesn't understand. My father said this would be mine, and I'm here to claim it." The tension in the room grew unbearable. Mr. Harlan raised his hand to calm us. "Please, both of you, let's keep this civil. I'll review the documents on file." As he turned to his computer, I looked at Mark one last time. His jaw was tight, his fists clenched around the key. This was no misunderstanding. This was betrayal in its purest form. My son, the person I had sacrificed everything for, was ready to strip me of the last piece of security I had left. I stood, taller, no longer willing to beg or plead. If this was the battle he wanted, then I would face it head on. The bank could settle the paperwork, but the real conflict was already clear. This wasn't just about a box. It was about my dignity, my independence, and the realization that sometimes the greatest betrayal comes from the ones you love most. After leaving the bank that day, I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the steering wheel while my hands shook. The image of Mark holding up that key, his voice sharp with entitlement, replayed in my mind over and over. I could not believe how far things had gone. My own son had stood in front of strangers and tried to take from me the one thing his father had trusted me to protect. Part of me wanted to go home and cry, to let the weight of betrayal crush me completely. But another part of me, the stronger part, refused. I had spent too many years sacrificing, working late nights, and carrying burdens alone to allow anyone, even my own son, to erase me like that. I knew if I backed down now, Mark would never stop. This was no longer about money or a box in the bank. This was about standing up for myself, about showing him and the world that I would not be silenced. That night, I pulled out the folder where I had kept every important document since my husband's passing. I spread them out across the dining room table and began going through them carefully. There were property deeds, insurance papers, the will my husband had signed, and the original contract with the bank for the safety deposit box. As I read each page, my anger began to settle into something sharper: resolve. The truth was on my side, and I needed to make sure no one could twist it. The original agreement with the bank was clear. The box was registered in my name alone. There were no secondary signers, no joint ownership, and no legal pathway for Mark to claim it while I was alive. Seeing that in writing gave me strength. It was proof, cold and clear, that he had no right to it. I decided to seek help. I called a longtime friend, Margaret, who had worked as a secretary for a lawyer for many years. She wasn't an attorney herself, but she knew enough about legal processes to guide me in the right direction. I told her everything, how Mark had tried to pressure the manager, how he waved the key as if that alone gave him ownership, how humiliated I felt standing there as he tried to take what wasn't his. Margaret listened quietly, then said in a firm voice, "Linda, he can't just bully you into giving it up. A key doesn't mean ownership. What matters is the paperwork. And if your name is the only one on that box, then the law is on your side. But you'll need to be prepared. He won't stop here." Her words settled something inside me. I realized she was right. Mark had revealed who he was in that moment, driven, entitled, and unwilling to hear reason. If I didn't draw a line now, he would only push further, taking and demanding more until there was nothing left. So I began preparing. I made copies of every document related to the deposit box. I placed the originals in a fireproof safe at home and tucked the copies into a neat binder. I rehearsed what I would say to the bank manager the next time I saw him, making sure I would speak with confidence and clarity, not fear. For once I wasn't just a mother hurt by her son's betrayal. I was a woman ready to defend what was hers. The hardest part was accepting that my son was not on my side. For years, I had excused his behavior, telling myself he was young or stressed or misunderstood. But that day at the bank made me see him clearly. He wasn't acting out of confusion. He was acting out of greed. And while I still loved him with all my heart, I couldn't let that love blind me any longer. I spent the next days gathering my strength. I spoke with Margaret again, who connected me to a lawyer willing to review my case. I explained everything to him, and he reassured me that I had nothing to fear. As long as you don't sign anything giving him authority, he has no legal claim, the lawyer said. If he tries to push, we'll be ready. Hearing that gave me courage. For the first time since the confrontation, I felt like I had ground under my feet again. Mark might have had a key, but I had the law, the documents, and the truth. That evening, I sat by the window with a cup of tea, watching the sunset. The sky glowed orange and pink, and for a moment I felt peace. My husband's voice echoed in my memory. He used to tell me, "Linda, always be strong enough to protect what's yours, because not everyone will have your heart." Now I understood what he meant. I whispered to myself, "This isn't over, Mark. You tried to take what wasn't yours, but you'll see, I won't let you win." And in that quiet moment, I knew. I wasn't just preparing for another meeting at the bank. I was preparing to face my son and show him that his mother was stronger than he ever imagined. The day I walked back into the bank for the second time, I felt different. The first time I had been blindsided, hurt, confused, and caught off guard by my son's betrayal. But this time I was ready. I carried the binder of documents I had prepared, and my friend Margaret was by my side for support. My heart still ached knowing I was about to face my own son like an opponent, but my steps were steady. Mark was already there, standing tall at the counter with the key in his hand again. He looked over his shoulder when I walked in, smirking as though he expected me to give up and let him win. "Mom," he said with a tone dripping in confidence, "I'm glad you came. This will go smoother if you just let me handle it." I tightened my grip on the binder and walked past him toward Mr. Harlan's desk. The manager looked nervous, clearly dreading another confrontation. "Mrs. Warren," he said carefully, "your son has been insisting that the contents of the box belong to him. He has the key, and—" I cut him off, my voice clear and firm. "A key does not equal ownership, and I have proof," Mark scoffed. "Proof? The only proof that matters is right here." He held the key higher, as if waving it in victory. "Dad promised this to me. She's just holding on because she doesn't know when to let go." I opened the binder and laid the documents on the desk. That's a lie. The bank records, the will, and the deposit agreement are all in my name. Not his. Not anyone else's. Mine. Mr. Harlan adjusted his glasses and leaned forward, scanning the documents carefully. The room grew quiet except for the sound of paper being turned. Mark's smirk faltered slightly, but he crossed his arms, pretending to be unbothered. "Mom, stop embarrassing yourself," he muttered. "You know everything you have will come to me anyway. Why fight me now? Just hand it over, and we can avoid this spectacle." I turned to him, my eyes burning, but my voice calm. "You don't get to decide when my life is over, Mark. You don't get to take from me what your father trusted me to protect. This box is mine as long as I live, and your greed won't change that." The bank manager cleared his throat, his tone more decisive now. "Mrs. Warren is correct. The official records show her as the sole owner of this deposit box. Mr. Warren," he looked at Mark, "your name is not listed anywhere. Possessing a spare key does not grant you access or ownership." The words landed like a hammer. Mark's face went pale for a moment, then flushed red with anger. "That can't be right," he snapped. "Check again." "My father told me this was mine." Mr. Harlan shook his head slowly. "I have double-checked. The records are clear. Only Mrs. Warren has the legal right to access this box. And then, in the moment I had been waiting for, the manager unlocked the vault and returned with the box. He placed it on the counter, looked me in the eye, and said firmly, "Mrs. Warren, this is yours." I felt a wave of relief wash over me, so strong it nearly brought me to tears. The betrayal, the fear, the humiliation, all of it was worth this moment. I placed my hand on the box, steady and certain. Mark stood frozen, the key limp in his fingers, his power gone. "Do you see now?" I said quietly, turning to him. "This isn't about the box. It's about respect. You tried to take what wasn't yours and you lost. You've not only failed me, you've failed your father's memory." Mark's jaw tightened, his eyes full of anger and shame. "You'll regret this, Mom," he spat. "You think you've won, but you'll regret standing against me." I held the box close to my chest, my voice calm and unwavering. "The only regret I have is believing that my love for you would keep you from doing this. But I won't regret protecting myself. Not today. Not ever." With that, Mark stormed out of the bank, slamming the glass doors behind him. Everyone in the lobby turned to look, but I didn't care. For once I felt stronger than I had in years. Mr. Harlan gave me a sympathetic nod. "Mrs. Warren, I'm sorry for the difficulty this has caused you. Rest assured, we will tighten security to ensure this never happens again." I thanked him softly and walked out of the bank with Margaret at my side. The box was heavy in my hands, but my heart was lighter than it had been in weeks. The number ticket had changed again that day, but this time it wasn't a reminder of loss. It was a symbol of victory. My son had tried to take everything from me, but in that moment, I realized something far more important. He could never take my dignity. He could never take my strength. When I walked out of the bank with the deposit box in my arms, I felt a mixture of relief and sadness that is hard to put into words. Relief because I had defended what was mine, and sadness because the person I had defended it from was my own son. The weight of the box felt heavy, but not just because of what was inside. It was heavy with memories, with sacrifices, with years of trust that had just been broken. At home, I set the box down on the dining table. I ran my hands over the metal, thinking of the day my husband first told me about it. He had said, "Linda, if anything ever happens to me, you'll have this to keep you safe." Back then, I never imagined that one day I'd be guarding it not from strangers, but from my own child. That realization hit me harder than anything Victor at the bank, or even Mark himself could have said. That evening, Ethan, my nephew, who often came by to help with errands, stopped in to check on me. He saw the box on the table and asked gently, "Is everything all right, Aunt Linda?" I nodded, but my eyes filled with tears. "It's all right now," I said softly, but it was almost taken away. He listened as I told him what had happened, shaking his head in disbelief. "I can't believe Mark would do that," he said. I could only sigh. I wanted to believe he would never cross that line, but now I know better. Sometimes the people we love most are the ones who test us the hardest. In the days that followed, I reflected on everything. For years, I had carried guilt whenever Mark acted selfishly. I told myself maybe I had spoiled him, maybe I hadn't taught him gratitude properly, maybe I had failed him as a mother. But after what happened, I finally understood that his choices were his own. Love gives guidance, but it cannot force character. That was the hardest truth I had to face. I also realized how important it had been that I kept every record, every paper, every proof of ownership. If I had been careless, if I had trusted blindly, I might have walked out of that bank empty-handed. That thought chilled me. Preparation had been my shield, and it saved me. It reminded me that strength is not just about standing tall in the moment. It's also about planning ahead, protecting yourself, even when you don't think you'll need to. Mark hasn't spoken to me since that day. Part of me still aches when I think about him. He's my son, and no matter what he's done, the love I have for him doesn't vanish overnight. But love without respect is dangerous, and trust without boundaries is fragile. I can't allow him to walk back into my life with the same entitlement and expect me to bend. If he ever comes back, it will be on different terms, on terms where honesty and respect come first. Strangely, I don't feel weaker after this experience. I feel stronger. I faced betrayal and humiliation, but I walked away with dignity intact. The bank manager looked me in the eye as he handed me that box, and in that moment I knew I had defended not just my property, but my independence. I had proven to myself that even when the world feels like it's crumbling, I can still stand. Now, when I sit by the window with a cup of tea and watch the sunset, I feel a quiet peace. The betrayal still stings, but it no longer defines me. Instead, I choose to focus on the lesson it left behind. Betrayal teaches you who people really are, but it also teaches you who you really are. I am a woman who will not be erased, not by strangers, and certainly not by greed from within my own family. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. Never let anyone convince you that your years, your sacrifices, and your voice don't matter. Protect what's yours. Prepare for storms before they arrive. And remember that your strength often shows itself in the moments you least expect. I didn't walk out of that bank with just a metal box. I walked out with a deeper understanding of myself, with proof that I can survive heartbreak and still hold my head high. My son may have lost sight of love, but I will not lose sight of who I am. If this story touched you, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below telling me where you're watching from.